Hi everyone, I thought we'd talk today about the Three of Scepters. So for this, series amount of time that we spend talking about tarot a little more in depth in our personal lives, I'll be using the Tarot of Vampires deck. Many of you know that Tarot of Vampires is my home deck. It's the deck that I've used and loved and adored for years. And the guidebook is just priceless. There are no, I think anyone who's seriously interested in tarot, whether they choose to work with the artwork in the tarot deck or not, at least read over most of Ian Daniels' Phantasmagoria guidebook that accompanies this deck. It's just a really powerful, incredible treasure trove of information and insight for really connecting with tarot in a powerful way personally. And when we get deeper with our work with tarot, here's kind of what ends up happening. You start with it, and it's very much about learning the meanings. Your journaling work involves connecting with that more deeply, understanding each of the meanings. You probably have an awesome journal set up that lets you get more in depth with each card and understand each card, and that's awesome. It's so fucking cool, right? It's just cool when we start our journey with tarot. And we're like sponges where we're taking in all the information that we can and getting to know each and every little thing we can, and listening to different teachers and reading different books and connecting with what those things mean. And then when we actually start reading with the cards, we get into this place of exploring how much for ourselves personally is this about divination, and how much of it is it about understanding ourselves at a deeper level, connecting more powerfully with the tarot as a system, as a tool that can help us to understand our own path, our own spiritual path, and our own evolution as people, as individuals, and as a collective. So you get to this really beautiful, very in-depth place with tarot. And long story short, Ian Daniels' guidebook really is very supportive of coming into that deeper connection and understanding with tarot, as insofar as what it means about you and your spiritual path. So when you come to the cards, it's not just about what's going to happen in a certain situation, but instead it's about where am I at right now? What do I need to know about myself right now? Who am I right now? And the cards have a wonderful way of giving you a finger on that pulse, of a discovery of that pulse. And can help you to look at a different aspect of you, of a situation, of your own journey that maybe you haven't been willing to look at or haven't wanted to see. And so last week we talked about Five of Knives and perception, and it's really over the last year for me on my own personal journey, maybe a year and several months, I would say that I really came to know Five of Knives in a very different way, and much more about that perception aspect than the Five of Knives had meant for me in the past. And Three of Scepters kind of continues that theme, but now we're talking about manifestation with the three. So now, again, I'm looking at this more from the Ian Daniels Phantasmagoria Tarot of Vampires school of thought, if you want to say it that way. Looking at it more, if we want to go that far, in more of a Joseph Campbell way, right? If you're reading any of his works and you found your way to this video, then you'll understand that really what we are called to do in our society here, where we are in this time on this planet, is a picking up of our own torch and a following of our own path and an understanding of our own selves and our own stories. And so, in a way, the myths, we go back to the myths, but we also have an understanding that the myths don't really help us now because they don't really apply to where we are now in the way that they were handed down. So we have to shift the myth if we're going to work with the myth. And Three of Scepters, when I, for years was working with it, it was very much about, and especially when reading for clients, manifestation, creativity, You so often will see, and image is a little bit different here than traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, but you'll often see the person, the king, looking out to the port and seeing the ships go out or they're coming back in, and trusting that which he so passionately started creating with the Ace of Scepters is now going to be coming back to him, right? So it's very much about that co-creation, manifestation, blah, blah, blah thing that we hear about all the time in the New Age spiritual community, right? Like, and I say it too, there's only so many ways to say this, and so many of us say these things in a very similar way about co-creation with the universe, co-creation with, I would say, Great Spirit, right? Like, whatever you want to call Source. It's about co-creating with that, and it's about trusting that which you want is coming back to you. Now, over the last few years with Three of Scepters, I've really come to pause when this card shows up and look at the self-worth aspect, because you cannot expect something to come back to you that you want if you don't believe that you're worth what it is that you want to have come back to you. So if you're working on co-creating something and you don't believe that you are worth what it is that you would like to be experiencing, the ship can never come back to the port with whatever it is that you want in its vessel, right? Like, it's just not going to happen. Because it's probably on its way to you, but you can't see it because you don't believe you're worth it, and you will go out of your way to do whatever you can unconsciously to annihilate it coming back to you anyhow, because you don't believe that you're worth it. And it's kind of funny, it makes me giggle when I talk about this, but at the same time, it's actually really true. And I can say that because I've been reading for people for 9 years now, and I've watched myself and I've watched my clients self-destruct around this issue, where it is actually coming back to them, it's actually coming in, and they can't even recognize it because they don't think that they're worth it, and so they'll self-destruct over it so that they don't have that experience because they don't believe that they're worth it. If you don't believe that you're worth it, then you can't see it for what it is. And again, we go back to Five of Knives with perspective on this. What's our perception? What's our perspective in the situation? Do we need to shift it? Does something need to change there so that we can look at things differently and it can stop being a fearful or a bad thing and can instead be something that, at the very least, has value to it, if not, could become positive in our life? So with the three, we are talking about co-creation, manifestation. We're also talking about self-belief and self-worth. And it's very important, for me, when this card shows up, it is, traditionally we get kind of excited when we see it, and it's a good thing. It's not one of those cards like with the Five of Knives or the Five of Pentacles where you're like, oh, okay, wow, yep, something kind of not fun might be happening now. Three of Scepters, you don't really get that feeling, so there isn't that immediate shadow to interact with. But I do feel, and I have found over the years working with this card, that this aspect of self-worth, of self-belief, of self-trust, and of belief in the goodness of the universe as well, in working with us, is very important. Now, when we start to talk about that, then we start to look at core beliefs. Because if we were raised in a spiritual or religious tradition that believes that you're punished by the divine if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you see, we can believe that the universe actually really isn't working in accord with us, that it doesn't want what we want, that it's kind of against us, that we can't trust it. And so the three can encourage us here. This Three of Fire, the Three of Scepters, the Three of Wands, whatever your deck might be calling this card, is also a call for us to start to heal any type of disconnect we have with Source about love and trust. And so we can then start to peel back layers within ourselves around that. In what way do we not believe that the universe wants what we want for us? In what way do we not feel that we can trust the universe? In what way do we feel like the divine isn't on our side? And if we have that feeling, if we have that kind of victim mentality when it comes to Source, where's the wound been for us? In what way have we felt that we're not worth the love of the universe? So you can start to see where there is that disconnect within the self, and then work with yourself to bring that back into alignment. Now, how do you come back into alignment with co-creation with Source based on a belief that you're worthy. It's by forgiving and understanding yourself and loving yourself and offering yourself unconditional love and unconditional trust in a way that you probably never have before, because if you're coming up against this, you're probably pretty harsh on yourself. There's probably a pretty negative loop that you tend to get stuck in going on in your mind. And we can work with the element of fire. We can work with that passion from the ace to help us to shift that loop so that we can co-create what it is we want in our reality. So if we really want that, I don't know, that advancement in the career, or if we really want that relationship, or we really want to start that business of our own, we really want to have more meaningful friendships and connections in our life. If we really want those things and we want to start bringing them into us, then we have to allow ourselves to focus on the fact that we deserve them, that we're worthy of them, and that they are coming to us. Of their own volition, they're already on their way to us. But we can't see it if we don't believe enough in ourselves, in our own worth, and ability to love, to be loved, to offer love, to receive love, to, in fact, embody love, so that we can experience the good that we want to in our life. So this card, while super exciting and a fun card to pull in tarot, like there are a lot of layers to this card as well. When we talk about creativity, manifestation, the power that comes along with that, there also needs to be that foundation of self-worth, self-belief, and also belief in the intrinsic beauty and love of the universe for us, as well as how we feel about ourselves. So it might be that we choose to make a little bit of a shift in our connection with the divine. Maybe we choose to work with some deity, some expression of deity that allows us to feel really loved and supported and not judged or manipulated. So the Three of Scepters, really powerful message, wrapped up in a package that's a little more fun than the Five of Knives, but is no less impactful for the maybe a slightly more lighthearted delivery of the message in the imagery. So I hope that you are all doing well, and I hope that, you know, if you found your way again to this video, it served you on your journey. That is always my intention. And as always, I am wishing you all much love and many blessings. I will see you in the next video, guys.